Psalm 84. I just believe the Lord has something for us tonight. And it's definitely not the first time He's changed my message just right before I go to preach it. I'm just going to try my best to mind Him tonight. Psalm 84, we're going to start in verse 1. Amen. Title of my message tonight is Have You Done the Math? Have you done the math? I'm not going to ask you to stand. I'm just going to take this verse by verse. I'll read the first couple verses here. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. I'm just going to hold it right there for just a second. Have you done the math? How many of you have experienced something so real, so incredible, that it just made everything else look small by comparison? Yeah, I got like one amen, I got one raised hand. We've probably all experienced something like that, where everything else just seems small after you've experienced that. Sometimes it's a really good thing, sometimes it might be a bad thing that you've experienced, and it just puts things in perspective. Tragedies have a way of putting things in perspective. Maybe you haven't experienced something like that. But tonight, I hope to walk us through this psalm. This psalm is by the sons of Korah. And they are getting ready to claim something pretty radical about relationship with God. So I asked the question, have you done the math? And you don't even know what I'm really asking yet, so you don't have to answer. But I just want you to hold on to the question. Carry that question with you as we move through the text tonight. And hopefully we'll find out what that question really means. So these writers, the sons of Korah, we don't know a whole lot about them. But one thing that we do know is when this psalm was written, it was most likely written when they were in exile. They were away from the temple. And I just need you to understand that when they say things like, my soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord, you kind of have to imagine that, we live far removed from that society. And we don't really understand the relevance of the temple, what it meant to them, what it meant that they weren't able to make that trek to the temple. But for these people, the temple was how they met God. They believed God dwelled there in that temple, and that's where they went to meet with Him. And they were being barred from that. They couldn't make that trek, that pilgrimage, to get to the temple. And really, they weren't interested in the courts. They were interested in who was at the court. They were interested in the Lord. My soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. So it's interesting, the psalmist doesn't say anything about God being great or God even existing. I just think it's a really interesting way to open up a psalm. My soul is longing. He says, my soul is longing. My heart and flesh are singing for joy to the living God. What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like some kind of intellectual thing that the psalmist is trying to present? Or does it sound more like a relationship? That's the way you talk about someone that you're longing for, right? Remember when you first fell in love and how you just longed to be with that person? I remember Mindy and I talking on the phone until one of us fell asleep. I remember us spending every break in between classes, we would hang out with each other, just even if it was just for a minute or two before we had to rush off to our other classes. Every weekend, you didn't have to ask me where I would be because I was going to be with her. I longed for her. Just to be in her company. And that's what I read when I read this. The psalmist is saying, my soul longs for you, God. My heart and my flesh sing for joy to you, Lord. So, here's an honest question. When you read that, what do you feel? Do you resonate with that? Or maybe you feel like an outsider looking in. I'm not trying to beat anybody over the head. I'm asking some honest questions. The reality of it is, if you feel like an outsider, if you read that and you go, I don't really get that. I don't really understand how you can feel that way toward a being that you can't see. I've been there. I know what that is. So if you feel like an outsider, you're not alone. I would wager that most of us don't naturally ache for God in that way. I'm going to tell you tonight, that's a choice. That's a choice. Now, see, we tend to ache for other things. We tend to long for other things, for security or acceptance or success, for worldly love. But God? I mean, we believe in Him, right? We might even follow Him, but do we yearn for Him? Do we yearn for Him? So that gap, right, between the psalmist's longing and what we actually feel, I think that's exactly what this psalm is about. Because the sons of Korah are going to show us that that kind of relationship with God is possible. And they're going to show us what changes when we have it. Skip ahead to verse 5 for me. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, and whose heart are the highways to Zion. That's an interesting phrase, isn't it? Blessed are those whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. Next verse. As they go through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The early rain also covers it with pools. Next verse. They go from strength to strength. Each one appears before God in Zion. Next verse. Actually, no. Just hold it right there. That's fine. So, that verse 5, it says, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. Other translations say heart set on a pilgrimage. But either way, the point is the same. They're talking about having a heart that is set on moving toward God. Moving toward God. What is your heart set on tonight? What are you moving toward? What are you making a pilgrimage to? Because the reality of it is, we are moving somewhere. We are going somewhere. Our heart is set on something. Set on something. And the sons of Korah are going to tell us that what our heart should be set on is God. And I know I'm in church and I'm talking to church folk. And I know that up here we're going to go, well, yeah, of course our heart should be set on God. I'm not trying to talk to your brain tonight. I'm trying to talk to your heart. I want to ask your heart, what is it set on? And I'm asking me too. What is my heart set on? What am I moving toward? What am I taking steps toward? That kind of leads me to my first point here. This is about moving toward God. It's not talking about being perfect. That's not what a relationship with God means. It's not about perfection. It's about moving toward Him. It's about waking up in the morning and deciding, Lord, I'm going to take a step toward you today. And the psalmist doesn't say that blessed are those whose hearts are set toward God, and therefore they avoid the hard things. Right. It'd be nice if that's what the psalmist said. It'd be nice if that was a promise of God, that if your heart was set on Him, that you could avoid all the hard stuff, but that's not what the psalmist says. Right? He says, actually, maybe the opposite. It says, as they go through the valley of Baca. That means the valley of weeping. As they go through the valley of weeping. It doesn't say if they do, but as they go through the valley of weeping, they make it a place of springs. They make it a place of springs. I just want to real quick talk about that, because we live in the modern world where you can go to a faucet and turn on a tap and water starts flowing. It's so plentiful that we bottle it. But you need to understand that's not the world they lived in. We read this and we go, okay, there's a valley of weeping and springs come up in it. Well, what's the big deal? Now, you have to understand the valley was often the hottest place in the desert. Because all the heat just beat down right in the mountains, right in the hills, and it would heat up the valley. And the valley was the last place that you would expect to find a spring. That's not where the springs naturally came up from. The springs were in the mountains. And so here, the psalmist, he says, as you go through the valley of weeping, if your heart is set on God, there will come springs out of the valley. In the deepest, darkest, hottest place. In the place where you don't expect. And I think it's really interesting that he says in the valley of weeping, as you go about and you are shedding your tears and you're crying in the valley, it's almost like God sees the tears and he brings up springs up out of the tears. That was better than y'all reacted right there. He brings springs. It's a place of refreshment. It's a place where you can go and you can get a drink. It's a place where you can cool off. It's a place where life is found. In the valley of weeping and tears, you can find life. If your heart is set on God. But notice what the psalmist doesn't say. He doesn't say the valley transforms into something else. It's still a valley. But what transforms is what's in the valley. Now it's not just a valley of tears. Now it's a valley of springs. The place of weeping becomes a place of life-giving water. So when springs appear in the valley, right? Not at the mountaintop, not at the journey's end, but in the lowest, hardest place. I mean, that's life or death in the ancient world.
Yeah.
Springs in a valley meant the thing that should have killed you became the place where you were sustained.
That's good.
That thing that should have cooked you to death.
Come on.
That thing that should have dried you up. That thing that should have made you walk away from God. Instead, because your heart was set on walking toward Him, that valley became the place where you were sustained and actually brought back to life.
Yeah. That's good.
That's the valley when you're walking toward God. God meets His people in valleys. Even in the valley, even in suffering, God proves Himself present. I am here. The relationship deepens not because the valley is good, but in spite of the valley. Because God shows up even in the valley.
Yeah, it does.
And that's the opposite of what we usually think, right?
Oh, that's true.
Most of us think if I'm suffering, God must be far away. But the Psalms let us know, no, even in the middle of my suffering, God isn't far away. He actually draws closer in the midst of the suffering. If my heart is set on Him. When you're in a valley, where is your heart set?
Good.
Are you set on moving toward God?
Come on.
Or are you set on getting out of the valley?
That's good. That's good.
Because those are two different things.
Right.
Is your heart set? I'm going to move toward God even in the valley? Or when things get hard, do you decide, no, I just want out of this? Those are two different things. One positions you to find God there. The other positions you to lose Him. Because God is found in the valley.
Yeah.
The psalmist has been in the valley. He found springs there. And See, he has had a real tested relationship with the Lord. I mean, it just oozes out. He's letting us know, I've been in the valley. I've cried in the valley. I've nearly died in the valley. But the Lord provided and sustained in the middle of the valley. I've walked with Him through the valley. I know what happens if you'll just set your heart on Him. He's talking about a relationship. He's getting ready to say something in verse 10, but I want to go quickly to verse 9. Before the psalmist makes a very bold claim, he prays. Behold our shield, O God. Look on the face of your anointed. He just takes a moment to say, Lord, look on us. Lord, just look our way. You're our shield, God. Just look our way. And then verse 10, for a day. For one day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere.
Amen.
One day in your court is better than 1,000 elsewhere. Have you done the math? The psalmist has done the math. One day with the Lord is better than 1,000 anywhere else. And listen, I've read commentary, I've heard people preaching on this, and they go, well, it's just poetry. The psalmist, he's waxing poetic. You know, he's not talking about a literal 1,000 days. You're right, he's not talking about a literal 1,000 days. He is using poetry, but he's actually doing it in the extreme. What he's actually saying is, I have counted the cost. I've done the math, and I have determined that one day with God is better than 100, better than 1,000, better than 10,000, better than 1 million, better than infinity anywhere else. I would rather have one day with God than 1,000,000 days anywhere else. One day with God.
One day.
I just need one day with Him.
Help us, Lord. Help us, Lord.
And it's better than anything else this world has to offer.
Yes.
And he goes on, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. Notice what the psalmist said. He didn't say, I'd rather be the high priest. He didn't say, I'd rather be the one up in front of everybody, putting on a show for everybody. He didn't say, I'd rather be the important one. He said, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God. Give me the very lowest position. Let me clean toilets. Let me hold doors open. Let me sweep up after folks. Because even that is better than anything this world has to offer. I will take cleaning toilets in the house of God than being a king over this world. The psalmist did the math. Have we done the math? Have we done the math? One day in God's court is better than 1,000 days anywhere else. Not by a little amount. It's not just slightly better. It's not like it's pretty good compared to the alternatives. No, it's better. Full stop. It's better. And again, here's what is important. The psalmist isn't saying this from a place of ease. He's not saying it from the mountaintop. He's not saying we've had a great life, and so, yeah, of course, being with God is better. He's speaking about this from the valley. From the valley of trials and weeping and tears. He's saying even in the valley, one day with God is better than 1,000 days anywhere else. You might frame it this way. One day in the valley with God is better than 1,000 years on a mountaintop without God.
That's good.
This is the place the psalmist is speaking from. What he's saying is there's no comparison. And again, I know in our brains we know obviously nothing compares to God. But do we always live like that? Have we done the math? Have we settled it within our hearts that, yeah, there really is no comparison to God? Because sometimes we act like the job is better than God. Sometimes we act like the relationship is better than God.
That's good.
Sometimes we act like Walmart is better than God because we'd rather go there than show up in church. Have we done the math? There is no comparison. See, some of us have been through the valley. Some of us know what it is to be in the valley of weeping, where there's a season in your life where all you can do is cry. And it seems like the whole world has shaken apart around you. Some of us have been there. Some of us might have left before we got to experience God there. But some of us stayed in the valley of weeping until God proved He can turn tears into springs. Some of us have been through it. And we know there is no comparison to this God. You can take this whole world. You can take everything that this world has to offer. You can take all of the money. You can take all of the prestige, all of this junk. You can have it all. Just give me Jesus. Just give me the Lord. Because there is no comparison. Some of us know that. Have you experienced Him in the valley, in the hard place, in the place where springs appeared? Because that's what will change your math. If you have experienced Him in that way, the answer is obvious. If you haven't experienced Him in that way, we need to ask why. What's stopping you? Even in the valley, what's stopping you? Is it that you don't believe it's possible? Is it that you don't think you've been invited to that kind of depth? Or maybe you know that it's true, but you're still choosing 1,000 somethings over one day with the Lord. What's your 1,000 somethings tonight? What I'm talking about tonight, it's not a suggestion, it's not some nice idea. I'm talking about a choice. When you've been in the valley and you found God there, when you have actually done the math, the choice is really clear. One day with God beats everything else. Period. And the question isn't, well, is God really worth it? I mean, we already know that answer. The question is, why aren't we moving toward Him? Why aren't we moving toward Him? Because remember, that was the start of the psalm. A heart that is set on moving toward God. If we're not moving toward Him, what are the 1,000 other things we're choosing? Verse 11. See, there's a consequence of our choice. If we choose Him, it says, for the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does He withhold from those who walk uprightly. See, the choice, sometimes people feel like if they choose God, then they're giving up other things. But that's not actually what it is. Choosing God isn't a loss. When you move toward God, when your heart is set on the highways to Zion, He becomes your sun, shining on you. Listen, if you've ever been in the dark of night, you know what it means to have the sun rise. He becomes your sun. Your light, your warmth, your direction, and He becomes your shield. Your protection, your security. He guards you. Not when everything is perfect, but right now. And He bestows favor and honor. He gives you the real things that you've been looking for in 1,000 other places. No good thing does He withhold from those who walk uprightly. I've seen this verse used for like the prosperity gospel, and I would be remiss if I didn't just push back on this just a little bit. Can I tell you that the best thing is Jesus? There are good things in this life that we can have, but the very best thing is Jesus. Those who walk uprightly. Uprightly is an interesting word. It's not sinlessly perfect. I've heard that preached too. That's not what that means. It's sincere. It's faithful. It's covenant integrity. You and God are in a covenant with each other, and you are going to maintain that covenant with Him. It's all that means to walk uprightly before the Lord. All right, I'm going to bring us to a close here. Here's where we land. The sons of Korah were cut off from the place they loved most. They walked through the valley of weeping. They found God there. They experienced relationship with Him that was so real, so tested, that they could look at 1,000 days of anything else and say, nope, not interested. Give me one day. Give me one day with the Lord. Give me one day in the valley with the Lord over anything else. And as I mentioned, there are people sitting here who know exactly what that means. You've been in the valley, you found God there, you know what it feels like when relationship with Him becomes more real than your circumstances. Because one day with Him has changed everything. But maybe tonight some of you are still waiting to experience that. You believe in God, you follow Him, but you've not experienced relationship with Him in a way that makes everything else look small. And the message of this psalm to you is, it's possible. Set your heart on the highway toward Zion. Move toward Him. And you will find that God meets you. Even in the valleys. So where is your heart set? On 1,000 somethings? Or on one day with God? For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. That is a promise. That is a promise. So tonight, there is no judgment, no shame being cast on anybody. Preach to myself as much as I'm preaching to anybody else. Have we done the math? Have we settled that I'm going to move toward Him no matter what? My heart is set on Him no matter what comes. Even in the valley, my heart is set. Have we settled? Just as Autumn sung, Jesus, bring the rain. If that's what it takes to praise you, Lord, if that's what it takes to encounter you, then Lord, bring the rain. Would you pray with me tonight? Father, we come before you, Lord, in the name of your Son, Jesus. Lord, I lift up every person here tonight, God. I pray, Lord, you would just pour out in this place. Lord, I know there are people in the valley tonight. Maybe they've not seen the springs yet, like your word says. But Lord, if our heart is set on you, we'll find the springs even in the valley. You can take our tears and turn them into springs of life, Lord. Only you are able to do that. And that's what I'm praying for tonight, God. That the people that find themselves in the valley tonight, Lord, that they would find you, and they would find springs, and they would find life, and they would find encouragement. And somehow, even in the valley, Lord, they would find joy, because that's promised to us too. Lord, help us to do the math like the psalmist did, Lord. What's better than you? There's nothing better than you, Lord. Lord, I know we all know that in our head, but I pray, God, we drill it into our hearts. There really is nothing better than you. 1,000 of anything else doesn't even begin to compare to you. You're good, Lord. You're good. These altars are open if you want to come pray.